the recording. Okay, so we were going over the physical properties of group 7 elements, right? And we studied that they are non-metals. They exist as simple diatomic molecules with the chemical formula X2, right? They're all diatoms in their free state, uh, which makes them more stable, of course. And we also studied that all group 7 elements are attracted to each other by weak intermolecular forces, which are known as the van der Waals forces. And the strength of these forces increases when the molecule size increases. And we also discussed, okay, why is that the case? We also discussed the concept behind behind the relation of the molecule size and the strength of the force. And we discussed, okay, how when the size of the molecule increases, as you move down the group, the number of electrons increases. So the number of the occupied electronic shells increases, and that also increases the size of the overall electronic cloud around the atom and in the molecule, and that results in a stronger dipole to dipole interaction, right? It results in a stronger temporary dipole interaction. So this is known as the van der Waals force, and yeah. So example says that the size of chlorine is smaller than bromine and iodine, and thus the van der Waals forces between chlorine molecules are weaker as compared to the bromine and iodine molecules. And obviously, when the van der Waals forces are weaker in chlorine molecules, so chlorine has a lower melting and boiling point as compared to bromine and iodine. Chlorine exists as a gas. Bromine also exists as a gas, but iodine exists as a liquid at room temperature. Uh, let's go over the chemical properties of group 7 elements. So all atoms of halogens have 7 electrons. The elements do not exist naturally, right? So basically they'll all exist in the diatomic state. Uh, they have 7 valence electrons because they are part of group 7, so the outermost shell will contain 7 valence electrons. So they have a deficit of 1 electron, right? And it's easier for them to gain 1 electron. So remember, non-metals, they gain electrons easily, and the electron and that's why they are oxidizing agents, because they strip other atoms of electrons. And the metals are uh, reducing agents because they can donate their electrons very easily. And these elements do not exist naturally. All elements react with water. They react with aqueous solutions of sodium hydroxide. Basically, they'll react with all alkalis, and they also react with any metals, and they also react with less reactive metals, right? So let's look at the reaction of group 7 element with water, right? So this is a group 7 element which exists in the diatomic state, and when it reacts with water, so it forms uh, an acid, say, and uh, a hypo acid. Okay, so for example, if it's like so for example, if it reacts with chlorine, so it will form the hydrochloric acid and the hypochlorous acid, right? So this is the reaction. As you can see that the group 7, this is the second form of reaction where the group 7 element is reacting with a alkali that alkalis कैसे form होते हैं when group 1 elements जो है they will react with water, right? So water के साथ जो reaction था group 1 elements का, if you remember, sodium reacts with water to form sodium hydroxide and release hydrogen gas, right? So that's sodium hydroxide, and if it reacts with a group 7 elements, it forms a salt. It forms it forms a and it forms a group one forms a compound containing a group 1 element, oxygen and halogen, and forms water. Okay, so just need to memorize these reactions. ठीक है, इसी तरह से लिखने हैं. So for example, अगर यहाँ पर chlorine होगा तो it will form sodium chloride, NaOCl, and then water, right? अच्छा, the second form of हाँ, the second form of, I don't know ये किस तरह से है, but another second form of the reaction, another reaction that the group 7 elements undergo is the reaction with metals. ठीक है? So they'll just react with metals to form metal halides. Okay, these are salts. So for example, if sodium will react with chlorine, it will form sodium chloride. That's stable salt. See, that's pretty straightforward. And there's a highly exothermic reaction. There's another chemical reaction which is known as the displacement reaction. So have you heard about the displacement reaction?
Yes.
Okay, so Rafi, can you tell us about the displacement reaction? क्या होता है?
डिस्प्लेसमेंट रिएक्शन का मुझे इतना याद है कि this the element with high reactivity will be displaced by the element with
हम्म
lower reactivity than it. रिएक्टिविटी सीरीज होती है, जो सबसे ऊपर होता है वो जो उससे नीचे होता है उसको मतलब डिस्प्लेस कर देता है, मतलब
यस
जिस
एग्जैक्टली
तरह
अच्छा
वो एक एग्जाम्पल याद है, वो नेल के ऊपर कॉपर लगा होता था, तो उसको जब हम लोग सोडियम उसको जब हम लोग किसी हाईली रिएक्टिव चीज के साथ रिएक्ट करवाते थे, तो वो उससे वो कॉपर वो डिस्प्लेस हो जाता था।
यस एग्जैक्टली ऐसा ही है ठीक है सो द डिस्प्लेसमेंट रिएक्शन जो है ना उसमें ये होता है कि अ मोर रिएक्टिव halogen will displace the less reactive halogen from its compound, right? So, for example, this is not a displacement reaction. ठीक है तो एक तो हमने reaction पढ़ा halogens का with sorry एक मिनट ऐसे नहीं let me just erase this. So एक हमने जो reaction पढ़ा है halogens का that is a reaction of halogens with water ठीक है one reaction is with water I don't know ये पीछे की तरफ क्यों चला गया मैं इसको आगे कर दूँ the other reaction is with alkalis so basically the group 1 hydroxide we also studied about their reaction with metals ठीक है and now we're gonna go over the reaction ये आपने ना सारे memorize करने हैं there is no like कोई इसमें concept नहीं है आपके reaction सारे you should learn by heart right so the third type of reaction that we're going to see is the displacement reaction ठीक है displacement reaction जो होता है ना उसमें होता है कि a more reactive halogen will displace the less reactive halogen from its compound, right? So, for example, if we have, let's look at how the reactivity changes as you move down the group, right? So, we have fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, and we have astatine, right? So, yeah. So, they all exist in diatomic state, ठीक है लेकिन obviously periodic table में इस तरह से नहीं लिखा होता. So, as you move down the group, does the reactivity increase or decrease? Maham. For non-metals, when you move down the group, does the reactivity increase or decrease?
Decreasing,
Yes. The reactivity down the group decreases. And why does that happen?
because the atomic size increases.
Hmm. And what happens when the atomic size decreases?
I don't know how to explain it.
Okay. So when the when you move down the group, so what happens is the uh, what happens to the number of protons when you move down the group?
They increase.
Yes, they increase, right? So what happens with the positive charge down the group?
increases.
Yes. So the attractive force on the electrons, will it decrease or increase?
Increase.
Right? So do non-metals gain electrons or do they lose electrons easily?
Lose.
They lose electrons. No,
They gain.
they like to gain electrons. Okay. Why do they gain electrons? Because they have an excess of electrons in their outermost shell, so it's easier for them to gain electrons, right? Not lose electrons. So as you move down the group, okay, they want to gain electrons, right? But the positive charge is increasing. सही है? So the positive, अच्छा नहीं, sorry, जो है, as you move down the group, so the size of the electronic cloud that increases, ठीक है? जो size होता है ना इलेक्ट्रॉनिक क्लाउड का, वो increase होता जाता है as you move down the group, right? So basically there
जी
is,
साइज इंक्रीज होता है।
हाँ, size increase हो जाता है। अच्छा,
वो
size increase होता है।
जब साइज इंक्रीज, अच्छा नहीं, मैं
बोलो।
कह रहा था कि जब साइज इंक्रीज होता है तो वो बॉन्ड लेस पावरफुल होता है, जिससे वो मतलब कम पावर होती है उसके पास गेन करने की, तो इसलिए शायद डिक्रीज होती है रिएक्टिविटी।
यस यस एग्जैक्टली ऐसे ही। सो हाँ, वो मैं एक और चीज के साथ मैंने कर लिया था। सो सॉरी, सो बेसिकली व्हेन इज साइज इंक्रीजेस, सो व्हाट हैपेंस इज कि द आउटर शेल, ऑब्वियसली ये वाला शेल जो है, इट मूव्स अवे एंड अवे फ्रॉम द nucleus, right? So the outermost electron is being less attracted by the nucleus. Okay, it's so farther away, and that's why it's it's harder for the uh, atoms which are down in the group to gain electrons, right? So that's why they are less reactive. So yeah, so what happens is in the displacement reaction, moving back to the displacement reaction, ठीक है, we kind of took an okay. So यहाँ पर क्या होता है कि for example if you react sodium chloride, ठीक है, with let's say if you react sodium chloride with fluorine, right? अच्छा, tell me, is sodium chloride, sorry, is chlorine more reactive or fluorine? Maham, remember, reactivity is decreasing down the group.
Fluorine is more reactive.
Yes, fluorine is more reactive, right? So fluorine has a tendency to displace this chlorine from its compound. So it will just snatch away the sodium and will form sodium fluoride, right? It will form sodium fluoride and will liberate chlorine, right? So let's just balance this equation. So there are two chlorine atoms on the product side and two sodium here. So that's balanced. Okay. So that's the displacement reaction. Okay. That's another chemical property of group 7 elements. They displace. Okay. Let's go with another example. If I have, for example, let's say if I have sodium bromide, right? And if I react it with iodine, Maham, can you tell me the products?
Sodium iodine.
Mhm. Sodium iodide होता है, ठीक है?
Plus.
whenever
uh,
whenever whenever you whenever जैसे फ्लोरीन है ना, ठीक है, तो इन and the ion will be called, and ion के आगे ना जो suffix लगता है ना, it's ide. So fluorine fluoride, chlorine chloride, bromine bromide, iodine becomes iodide, acetylene becomes acetatide, ठीक है? It's sodium iodide. And what else will you form?
Bromide.
ठीक है, ब्रोमीन गैस, ठीक है, क्योंकि अब गैस बन रही है, इट्स नॉट एन आयन, इट्स अ गैस। अच्छा, Is there any problem with this equation? Apart from the fact it's not balanced, of course. I'll balance it. ठीक है?
यस।
अब बैलेंस हो गई, क्या प्रॉब्लम है इसके अंदर?
अच्छा, वो मैं बैलेंस की बात कर रहा
अच्छा, नहीं, बैलेंसिंग इज नॉट द इशू। गौर से देखना है और मुझे बताना है जल्दी से क्या प्रॉब्लम है इसके
था।
अंदर।
इसमें आयोडीन गैस है, और फॉर्मूले में जो रिजल्ट है उसमें आयोडीन गैस नहीं है।
नो, गौर से देखो, रिएक्टिविटी देखें और रिएक्शन देखें। ब्रोमीन।
पीरियोडिक टेबल में ब्रोमीन ऊपर आता है आयोडीन के, तो ब्रोमीन जो है
यस,
वो रिप्लेस होगा आयोडीन की जगह।
यस, दिस नहीं, ब्रोमीन रिप्लेस नहीं होगा। अब देखो, सोडियम ब्रोमाइड है ना, ऑटोमेटिक पहले ही उसे उसका ऑलरेडी उसका कंपाउंड है।
जी।
ठीक है, दिस रिएक्शन विल नॉट
जी।
अकर एट ऑल। ये रिएक्शन हो ही नहीं सकता। द रीजन इज iodine is less reactive than bromine, right? It's below bromine in the periodic table in group 7. So iodine will not be able to replace the bromide ion, ठीक है, and form sodium iodide, ठीक है. So this reaction will not occur, right? So this was just a trick question. तो खैर, and you get the idea now, ठीक है, कि जो नीचे वाले होते हैं ना elements, सही है, they cannot displace the halogens which are above them, ठीक है, from their compound. That's the displacement reaction. It's kind of interesting. Okay, so predicting the physical and chemical properties of other group 7 elements. Chlorine is the most reactive, astatine is the least reactive, but it is highly radioactive. The physical and chemical properties of fluorine and astatine can be predicted by studying the changes and physical chemical properties of chlorine, bromine, iodine. अच्छा, इसमें ये होता है, जो फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टी केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज तो समझ आ गई, ठीक है. रिएक्टिविटी डिक्रीजेस डाउन द ग्रुप, दे रिएक्ट विद, दे अंडरगो द डिस्प्लेसमेंट रिएक्शन, ठीक है. नंबर 3, दे रिएक्ट विद मेटल्स, दे रिएक्ट विद वाटर, ठीक है, एंड दे आल्सो रिएक्ट विद द मेटल हाइड्रोक्साइड्स, राइट. ये चार आपको रिएक्शन, चार पांच केमिकल प्रॉपर्टीज याद होनी चाहिए. एक और जो है ना, वो ये है कि अब लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द केमिकल फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज, ठीक है. फिजिकल प्रॉपर्टीज में ये है कि डाउन द ग्रुप देयर मेल्टिंग पॉइंट एंड बॉइलिंग पॉइंट, ठीक है. डाउन द ग्रुप देयर मेल्टिंग पॉइंट एंड बॉइलिंग पॉइंट जो है ना, ये क्या करते हैं, दे इंक्रीज, ठीक है. सॉरी, ये थोड़ा सा कंफ्यूजिंग है. डाउन द ग्रुप देयर मेल्टिंग पॉइंट एंड बॉइलिंग पॉइंट इंक्रीज, सही है. यू शुड ऑल्सो हैव एन आइडिया अबाउट देयर स्टेट्स, ठीक है, देयर स्टेट्स ऑफ मैटर. सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल, फ्लोरीन जो है ना, एट रूम टेम्परेचर देयर एग्जिस्ट एज अ गैस, क्लोरीन भी एग्जिस्ट एज अ गैस. ब्रोमीन जो है, इट एग्जिस्ट एज अ गैस. आयोडीन एग्जिस्ट एज अ लिक्विड, एंड देन एसिटीन एग्जिस्ट एज अ सॉलिड, ठीक है. सो मेल्टिंग एंड बॉइलिंग पॉइंट्स इंक्रीज ऑन द ग्रुप. नंबर 2 ये है कि आपको इनकी ना स्टेट्स पता होनी चाहिए एट रूम टेम्परेचर. अभी मैंने बताई है सारी स्टेट्स एट रूम टेम्परेचर, राइट. सो यू शुड नो देयर स्टेट्स एट रूम टेम्परेचर एंड प्रेशर. सेकंड, आपको थर्ड, आपको इनका ना कलर पता होना चाहिए. यू शुड नो अबाउट देयर कलर्स, राइट. सो जो आई डोंट रियली रिमेम्बर द एग्जैक्ट कलर्स, लेकिन जो फ्लोरीन है ना, इट एग्जिस्ट एज ग्रीनिश गैस, ठीक है. जो बस इसमें ना ट्रेंड जो होता है ना, ट्रेंड ये होता है कि डाउन द ग्रुप द कलर्स बिकम डार्कर, ठीक है. Colors become darker as you move down the group. So fluorine exists as a greenish, lightest green gas. जो chlorine है yellowish green, ठीक है. And then bromine, it's yellowish brown, ठीक है. And then iodine is reddish brown, I don't know. फिर उसके बाद जो एसिटीन होता है ना, इट्स लाइक पर्पल ब्लैक कलर, ठीक है, पर्पलिश ब्लैक. इस तरह से इनके कलर्स जो होते हैं, दे विल बिकम डार्कर एंड डार्कर. I really wish that there were pictures of actual uh, जो है इसकी, लेकिन we can discuss them later. So अभी यहाँ पर ना